Life can often feel overwhelming, chaotic, and even meaningless. But what if that's exactly what it is? A universe without inherent purpose, where we are responsible for creating our own meaning. In this video, we're diving into existentialism, a philosophy that challenges us to face the absurdity of life head-on and find freedom in the choices we make. We're exploring how this powerful philosophy can help us live authentically, even in the most uncertain times. So, what is existentialism anyway? Existentialism is all about confronting the big, uncomfortable truth. Life doesn't come with a built-in meaning. There's no grand plan or purpose waiting for us. We're the ones who have to create it. This idea might sound a bit heavy, but it's actually kind of empowering. The core of existentialism is the belief that we have the freedom to shape our lives through the choices we make. There's no universal rulebook telling us what life should be about. No one-size-fits-all purpose. It's up to each of us to decide what matters and how we want to live. No pressure, right? Staring into the void of life having no meaning can lead down the path of nihilism. Check out our video about nihilism on the channel if you want to know more about that subject. Existentialism is a philosophy that took off in the mid-20th century, and it flipped a lot of conventional thinking upside down. For a long time, the belief was that everything, including us as humans, had an essence, a purpose that was ingrained in us from the moment we were born. Existentialism comes out and says the opposite. It puts forward the belief that your essence is not performed, and that your decisions are what sets your fate. So, one of the big ideas in existentialism is the absurd, a concept that Albert Camus really brought to life in works like The Myth of Sisyphus. The absurd is all about the clash between our deep desire for meaning and the reality that the universe just doesn't care. We're always searching for purpose and order, but the world gives us randomness and indifference. This tension is what Camus calls the absurd, and it's at the heart of the human condition. Camus uses the story of Sisyphus, a guy from Greek mythology, to illustrate this. Sisyphus is doomed to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down every time he gets close to the top. It's a never-ending, pointless task, just like our search for meaning in a universe that doesn't offer any. But here's the twist. Camus says Sisyphus, and by extension all of us, should embrace this absurdity and keep living fully, even though the universe isn't giving us any clear answers. When we face the absurd, we've got two options. We can either fall into despair, which could leave us feeling stuck, or even lead to giving up on life, or we can choose defiance. Existentialists say the braver choice is to face the absurd head-on. Even though life doesn't come with built-in meaning, we can still create our own purpose through our actions, decisions, and relationships. At the core of existentialism is the idea that humans are radically free. Basically, we aren't born with any built-in purpose or essence. We have to define who we are and what we stand for through the choices we make. One of the most famous existentialist thinkers, Jean-Paul Sartre, put it perfectly when he said, "Existence precedes essence." What he meant is, we exist first, and then through our decisions, we shape who we become. Now, this kind of freedom is both exciting and a bit terrifying. Sartre called it the burden of freedom, because without a predetermined path or meaning, it's totally on us to figure things out. And here's where it gets tricky. People often avoid this responsibility by blending in with societal expectations, roles, or relying on others to define them. Sartre called this bad faith, when you don't take ownership of your choices and instead let others dictate your life. Living in bad faith means you're not being true to yourself. You're just following the crowd. But if you want to live authentically, existentialism says you have to embrace your freedom. That means making choices that reflect who you really are, not what others expect from you. Sartre even went as far as saying that we're condemned to be free. It's like there's no higher power or rule book telling us what to do, which can feel overwhelming. But at the same time, it means we have total control over shaping our own lives. Freedom in this sense is absolute, but with it comes massive responsibility. Each decision defines who you are and what you truly value. So, when it comes to existentialism, all that freedom and responsibility we have can often lead to some pretty heavy feelings, like alienation and anxiety. Alienation is basically when you start feeling disconnected, from your true self, from other people, or even from the world around you. This is a big theme in existentialist thought, especially in the works of Martin Heidegger and Jean-Paul Sartre. Heidegger, in his book Being in Time, introduces this idea of being in the world. It's a fancy way of saying that we're all part of the world, living in a specific context or environment. But here's the catch. We often feel like we don't really belong or are somehow disconnected from everything. Heidegger also talks about how we have to confront the fact that we're finite beings, we're going to die someday. And this realization can make us feel estranged from the shallow, day-to-day stuff we usually focus on. Sartre takes this idea further by looking at existential anxiety, which he also calls anguish. This anxiety kicks in when we truly understand just how much freedom and responsibility we have. When we realize that there's no preset meaning or values to guide us, and it's entirely on us to create our own purpose, it can be pretty overwhelming. This sense of being totally on your own, with nothing but your own decisions to shape your life, can leave you feeling isolated. But here's the twist. While this anxiety can feel paralyzing, existentialists believe it's actually a good thing. They argue that instead of running from these feelings by relying on outside authorities or predefined roles, we should face them head on. In fact, embracing this anxiety can push us to live more authentically and create our own meaning in life. So why does existentialism still hit home today? Well, it's because it tackles stuff that's always been relevant. Things like our search for meaning, our experience of freedom, and the fact that, yeah, we're all gonna die someday. As the world gets more complicated and unpredictable, existentialism gives us a way to deal with modern life's big questions and anxieties. These days, traditional sources of meaning like religion or strict societal roles don't have the same authority they used to. That's why existentialism's focus on personal freedom and creating your own purpose resonates with so many people now. It reflects the cultural shift towards individualism and personal fulfillment. On a practical level, existentialism is all about taking ownership of your life. It pushes you to confront those uncomfortable truths about existence and live authentically, even when the world feels like it couldn't care less. The idea is that by accepting our freedom, acknowledging our limitations, and choosing to create our own meaning despite the chaos, we can lead more fulfilling, authentic lives, even when things feel uncertain or absurd. All right, so here's the big takeaway. Existentialism doesn't shy away from the tough truth. Life doesn't come with any built-in meaning, and the universe doesn't really care about our struggles. But instead of letting that get us down, existentialism says we should fight back. It's all about embracing our freedom, taking responsibility for our choices, and living authentically. Even though there's no grand purpose handed to us, we have the power to create our own meaning and live life on our own terms. And that's a wrap. I hope this dive into existentialism gave you some food for thought. Remember, while life might not hand you a clear purpose, you have the power to create your own meaning. If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you find meaning in a chaotic world? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.